You heard about where's Hunter? Where is Hunter Biden? It actually doesn't matter anymore because Hunter has already done so much damage, a lot, and new information about him in a new report from Senate Republicans, and the details, while being ignored by much of the media for reasons we can't really figure out, these are salacious, these are juicy, and I'm sorry, in a political season, they're news. Let's put up some of the highlights, please. And again, they're kind of sleazy, but he was taking all kinds of money from the widow of the mayor of Moscow. Check that out. Hunter Biden received a $3.5 million wire transfer from Elena Burytina, the wife of the former mayor of Moscow, for consultancy fees. Also this is really unfortunate. He was paying all kinds of money to Eastern women associated with an Eastern European prostitution or human trafficking ring. Now, this is in addition to all the stuff we already know about Hunter Biden. Let's see, the $80,000 a month he was taking from Burisma, a sketchy Ukraine gas company. Hunter Biden had no experience in gas, while his father was the, well, point man for all things Ukraine. Oh, there's a reaction from the mainstream media today. Yeah, not much. Just not interested at all in these new findings. But Hunter Biden has a long track record of really weird stuff. It doesn't really bother the media. Doesn't seem to bother Democrats. Donald Trump has taken note of it. He's planning on using a lot of this stuff in the debate next week. You know who does notice? Joe Biden.
How is your role as vice president in charge of policy in Ukraine and your son's job in Ukraine? How is that not a conflict of interest?
It's not a conflict of interest. There's been no indication of any conflict of interest from Ukraine or anywhere else. Period. I'm not going to respond to that. Let's focus on the problem. Focus on this man, what he's doing that no president has ever done. No president.
You know, when I first heard that, I was pretty excited. I saw that on Twitter this morning, like, wow, the media is really laying into Joe. Almost a year ago, back when he was in a competitive primary, a race, and he had opponents. They're not giving him a hard time about this anymore. Very, very strange. You know, one of the reasons why, though, Joe gets so indignant, he does think he's above all this, that these questions are beneath him. Joe has been a career politician for a long, long time. No one knows the system like Joe. You know all those rules and regulations Swamp came up with? They serve the swamp, and he helped develop those rules and regulations. He knows how to work the system better than anybody, and he worked the system very, very well for himself and, yes, for Hunter Biden. I mean, there is absolutely no explaining this episode other than, well, it's sleazy. Letter of the law followed, maybe spirit of the law, not in a million years. This is December of 2013. Joe Biden, in his official capacity as vice president, travels to China on Air Force Two. And look who sheepishly is emerging from the plane. Hunter Biden. Guess who wants a great big hedge fund deal with Chinese bankers? Hunter Biden. Guess who arranged a special meeting with the man he was courting for this investment in the lobby where his father was staying? Hunter Biden. Hunter to this day says, I don't see the problem. I mean, these are friends of mine. We were all kind of involved in this project. What's wrong with saying hi to my father in the lobby of the hotel? It's funny that it's the lobby, by the way, the lobby. You know the term lobbyist? It comes from hotel lobby. In fact, legend has it that it came from the Willard, a grand old hotel in Washington, D.C. Ulysses S. Grant, all of his cronies, they would go to see him, and they'd have certain meetings, not at the White House, but at that lobby, and they'd hang around the lobby, ergo the term lobbyist. I think that's actually very, very interesting. All right, but back to the Ukraine angle of all of this. Again, this is all hiding in plain sight. In the media, they're just so strangely incurious about it. Poroshenko is not exactly a household name, but a very important man in Ukraine, former president there. Joe was very, very tight with him. You may have heard by this point that Joe wanted the prosecutor in Ukraine fired, and he was pushing for that, and he ultimately got it. Question I would ask for Joe, In all of his 8 years as vice president, was there any other country where he wanted the state prosecutor fired or removed? Just Ukraine. Just the country where his son had a strange business arrangement, and the business did not want this prosecutor looking at them. I mean, it really is obvious. It really is straightforward. Listen to this phone call. Again, I think Mr. Poroshenko knows what's going on. He's recording the call, okay? Listen to what he says about the prosecutor that Joe wants gone. He says there's nothing wrong with this guy, but out of respect for you, we're getting rid of him. And he records that call. This is something.
Yesterday, I met with the General Prosecutor Shokin.
Yes.
And despite of the fact that we didn't have any corruption charges, we don't have any information about he doing something wrong, I especially asked him, no, it was the day before yesterday, I especially asked him to resign.
Great.
And this is my second step for keeping my promises.
I agree.
That is wild. Now, Poroshenko knows he's taping the call, and he goes out of his way to say, we don't have any evidence that this guy is engaged in wrongdoing. But since it's your wish, we're going to get rid of him. Great. I agree. That is something else. That is something else. And again, the media, for whatever reason, they just don't care. Now, Joe Biden is an arrogant guy. He really is. Been a big shot for a long, long time, and it went to his head. And very stupidly, he was bragging about this one episode in public shortly after he left the vice presidency.
And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. I said, you're not getting the billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
So you know what I think happened? Donald Trump saw this exchange. You know, Donald Trump is a very sophisticated man in many respects, but in the ways of Washington, he was initially somewhat naive. There he is watching television. He sees that Joe Biden seems to be boasting about a corrupt act, and it comes up in that phone call with the Ukraine president, the new Ukraine president. That's how a normal person might react. But if you're a swamp creature, you know that game is all rigged, all set up. Joe knows how to work the system. He knows how to profit from it. And he also knows how people get in trouble with it. Pretty wild. All right. But still, our president has learned a lot since he's been in Washington, and he certainly has Joe Biden's number.
And I'm all for mess. When you need him, I'm all. But when you're making a speech and the nearest person's like where you are, and you're on a stage all by yourself, and then he had a habit of taking it off and it hangs down on his ear as he's speaking. He feels it makes him feel comfortable. And, you know, honestly, whatever makes you feel good is okay with me. But it'll be interesting. We're going to have a big rating on that. And, you know, he's been doing it all his life. He's been doing it for 47 years, and I've just started doing this stuff. I've just started. But, you know, I'm just thinking, but I did more in 47 months than he did in 47 years.
Isn't that a great line, by the way? 47 months, more in 47 months than in 47 years. This is last night's rally, by the way. He also laid into AOC.
AOC +3, you know AOC? Not a good student, not good at anything, but she's got a good line of crap, I'll tell you that.
All right. Now, here's where he got himself, well, in the fake news, he got himself in trouble. But I think with the people, they understand where he's coming from. First, I want to set this up. You've heard of the term dog whistle, you know, something that only dogs can hear. A racist dog whistle, something only racists can hear. They love talking about this in the fake news.
The president is continuing to use effective dog whistles for white racism.
At best, the president's tweets are insensitive today. I think at worst, Fred, they are a racist dog whistle.
A dog whistle for racism. And that is the term and the phrase that the President of the United States used in the Rose Garden just yesterday.
It's interesting. A dog whistle, only a dog can hear it. A racist dog whistle, they say only racists can hear it. But I noticed that the far left liberals, they're the ones who seem to call out racism when regular people don't see any. It's working the opposite way. In fact, they're actually revealing something about themselves, huh? All right. This was interesting when he talked about the anti-American, anti-Semitic Congresswoman from Minnesota, Ilhan Omar.
How about Omar of Minnesota? We're going to win the state of Minnesota because of her, they say. She's telling us how to run our country. How did you do where you came from? How is your country doing? She's going to tell us, she's telling us how to run our country.
Now, he was blasted. Oh, that's so racist, talking about her country. Well, I didn't see it that way at all. Ilhan Omar, her anti-American, anti-Semitic statements are all over the public record, right? Anybody can see them. She has said some vile and disgusting things about this country and about our heritage. She does come from Somalia. I don't find it offensive to me that if she is so at odds with our way of life, perhaps she would like to consider a country where she'd be more comfortable, somewhere that's not America. You know, I also thought of the RNC. Do you remember when new immigrants took the oath of citizenship? It was actually quite a beautiful moment in the White House. And I thought about Ilhan Omar and that moment. Very, very beautiful. They took the oath of citizenship. Then I actually looked up the oath of citizenship, and I missed this part. Do you know this is actually in the oath that new citizens have to take? They have to promise that they will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by law. You have to promise that I will perform non-combatant service in the armed forces of the United States when required by law. That I will perform work of national importance under civilian direction when required by law. I look at Ilhan Omar and I look at what she has said about this country and about Jewish people, and I don't think she would live up to that oath. I really don't. All right, folks, some other items in the news. You heard about Breonna Taylor. The decision, the officers in that case will not be charged, at least in direct relation to her death. She was a young woman, a paramedic, emergency worker, I believe, sadly killed as police raided the apartment she was in. They were looking for her boyfriend. Gunfire was exchanged, and she tragically was killed. The officers will not be charged in the case. I think one officer is being charged with some sort of recklessness, but not for the shots fired at Breonna Taylor, but for a shot fired into the apartment next door. The president spoke about this a few moments ago.
I thought it was really brilliant. Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron is doing a fantastic job. I think he's a star. And he made a statement that I'll just read. Justice is not often easy. It does not fit the mold of public opinion, and it does not conform to shifting standards. It answers only to the facts and to the law. If we simply act on emotion or outrage, there's no justice. Mob justice is not justice. Justice sought by violence is not justice. It just becomes revenge.
People are bracing for potential violence tonight in Louisville. We'll keep our eye on it. Something else interesting happened at the briefing tonight. The president was summoned to take an emergency phone call in the middle of the press conference.
Leave for an emergency phone call. I'm going to let Scott and Larry finish that. Larry's going to talk about. So I'll be back. I will see you tomorrow.
Mr. President, just one more question on Breonna Taylor. We're at a time right now where Americans feel like we are on this carousel.
I have a big
Mr.
call.
President, just one more question, if I can, on Breonna Taylor. People are protesting in the streets. What is your message to them? People feel like we are on this carousel where another black life is being taken.
So here we have Dr. Scott Atlas and Larry.
Kind of interesting. Not every day the president leaves a room to take an emergency phone call. We don't know what the subject is. We don't know who's calling. Hopefully we'll find out soon.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.